everyone, welcome back to my channel, Lady Bitterness Astrology and Tarot. Thanks for joining me today. um, yeah, a little bit before we start, I just wanted to mention what kind of astrology I practice so we're all on the same page. I'm a Western tropical astrologer, and for transits, especially, I use whole sign houses. So that's what we're going to be using today. So as far as the bitter truth goes, this is going to be a weekly astrology forecast. I'm going to go through every day of the week, talk about my interpretation of the planets right now and how they're affecting us in the sky currently. It's a general interpretation for everybody, so if something doesn't really resonate to you personally, that's totally okay. Again, these are just my interpretations. It's not like the word of God or anything. So you just take what resonates, what feels right to you. It doesn't all have to apply, you know? Yeah, I just want to make a point every time I come on here to say that like you always have your own personal autonomy. These are just my ideas, my opinions based on my own intuition and my own studies on astrology. So still make your own choices. Okay, let's get into this week though. So this week is going to be from March 27th to April 3rd. So Sunday to Sunday, I'm doing this week. I always like to start off talking about what the lunar phase is for the current week. So we're actually going to be having a new moon on Thursday, I believe, March 31st. So this whole week is really going to be centered around that new moon. So I call this kind of the intention phase, the intention week. So when there is a new moon, we want to set not necessarily just goals, right? But set our intentions. What do we want from this new cycle? It's about opening ourselves up to new energies, to a new beginning almost. And this is only a month long. The lunar cycle is about 28 days, right? 28, 30 days. So it's only a month long, you know? So set reasonable, attainable kind of goals and intentions that you want. But yeah, that's a little bit of what this week, the basic underlying theme or energy or vibe of this week will be, is that new moon phase, which I call the intention phase. Now let's get into the weekly events. So this week, I think there's actually a lot going on. Mercury's going to enter Aries. That happens on Sunday, the 27th. We're also going to have Venus, Saturn, and Juno all combine in the sign of Aquarius. Then we're going to have a series of planets starting to square the North and South node. So we're first going to see that coming from Venus, then Saturn, and then finally Mars towards the end of this week and into the next week. And then finally, we've got a Mercury Cassini. Whew, yeah. It actually is quite a bit of energy happening. And let's first start off then with Mercury in Aries. So Mercury in Aries is going to shift from this more like imaginative yet kind of like fuzzy Mercury in Pisces, where we're kind of like in our dreams, in our daydreams. It's been harder to kind of focus on the details, and it's been more about kind of mental recuperation, really, is Mercury in Pisces. Once Mercury goes into Aries on Sunday, our decision making is going to become much more direct. It's going to be quicker. We're going to want to assert ourselves more, speak more honestly, speak more directly, get our needs met, and communicate what our needs are more upfrontly. Yeah, we're just going to be more decisive in general. That's kind of Mercury and Aries energy. Mercury and Aries can also lead to a more aggressive tone of speech. It can also lead us to be more angry, even in the way that we communicate. So that can also be occurring. Mercury is only going to be in Aries for, I think, about 2 weeks. So it's not a very long transit. So I would definitely recommend using the time that we have while it is in Aries to get things started, get things moving. Mentally, we're going to be more active, more willing to put our thoughts into actions. We're willing to put our ideas into actions, you know? So I would utilize that energy. Moving on, another bigger theme this week is going to be that Venus, Saturn, Juno conjunction in Saturn, or sorry, in Aquarius. And so this happens towards the beginning of the week, but we'll really feel the energy the whole week. Basically, how I'm interpreting this is that Venus is definitely the planet of love, but on a more like serious or technical basis, it's the planet of evaluation and therefore prioritizing what is the most important to us and what gives us the most value. And that is what we are attracted to. That's what we attract to ourselves, that kind of thing. With Venus in Aquarius, we're looking at evaluating our aspirations, evaluating our social responsibility, evaluating what groups of people are like-minded or like have the same goals and aspirations and drives, motivations, philosophies as we do, and how much we value that in our lives. With it conjoining Saturn, Saturn is a natural ruler of Aquarius. So it kind of emphasizes all of these themes. I think that we're going to take our social behavior a lot more seriously. This is definitely a point of maturity or maturation, I guess I should say, because Saturn is very much about regulating your kind of primal behavior and carrying yourself more responsibly and more maturely. So Venus being a planet, like how we relate to people, how we socialize with people, how we get along with people, meeting up with Saturn, it's going to emphasize how much more we need to set clear boundaries, represent ourselves with more, again, regulated behavior. Juno's involvement is interesting. I find Juno to be, well, in mythology, Juno is Jupiter's wife, Hera. Is it Hera? Yeah, I think it's Hera in Greek mythology. But essentially, Juno is incredibly dedicated to the idea of marriage and kind of the political gain and the political power that marriage gave her. And so to me, I see Juno for most of our charts, representing kind of our public announcements of what we stand for and what we stand up against, where we draw the line in the sand. Like, I will not go past this. This goes completely past my morals, completely past like my principles, right? Juno is very much about our principles and what line we will and will not cross. So with that also being here with the Venus and the Saturn, it's again emphasizing integrity, emphasizing our boundaries, not just boundaries with other people, but our boundaries with ourselves. What are we not going to let ourselves do anymore? How are we going to regulate our bad habits? That's a lot of what's going on. Okay, so like I said, the first planet that will square the nodes is going to be Venus. What I think this means for us, currently the North Node is in Taurus and the South Node is in Scorpio. So we're moving from complexity to simplicity. We're moving from an over-reliance and an enmeshment, an unhealthy enmeshment in certain relationships or just situations in general, careers, bad self-sabotaging habits, kind of a sinking ship almost of toxicity, emotional turmoil. Yeah, we're moving away from that and into the North Node and Taurus energy, which is of simplicity, which is of self-sufficiency, which is of a natural kind of innate way of being, rather than trying to give all of our energy to other people or other things, right? It's about protecting and basically tending our own gardens, is what I like to say when it comes to Taurus. When we have a planet squaring the nodes, it's usually called a skipped step, meaning that that planet is going to be the key to moving from the South Node to the North Node. It's going to be the step that we have to take in order to go from a very familiar and somewhat draining situation into a new situation. Now, I also want to make clear that the North Node is not good and the South Node is not bad. What we can also be experiencing with the South Node is actually a kind of reminder of situations that maybe we have left behind because we kind of gave up on it, or we just weren't able to fully expand upon that experience, and they might be coming back. Those experiences, those feelings, those ideas, those thoughts, those might be coming back. So the South Node isn't all bad, and the North Node can also be kind of it can create challenges in our lives that sure are like bringing us out of this South Node, but that are in fact really hard and really difficult. And the lessons that we learn from the North Node is more about like complete discomfort, because the South knows what we're used to, the North knows what we are not used to. So it can be a very uncomfortable placement, even though ultimately we, will learn something from that. When a planet squares, which the first planet that will square is Venus, we use that planet to kind of connect the nodes. What I think is going to happen for us with Venus and Aquarius squaring these nodes, we are going to reevaluate the area of our life that the South Node is in. So we're going to reevaluate power issues, power struggles, unhealthy enmeshment, toxic bonds, but also really strong, almost karmic bonds and how they're serving us. And then we're going to bring all of that, all the things that we are so familiar with and we know so well already, and we're going to move to the Venus and Aquarius energy, where we're going to understand what we need to bring and what we need to leave behind if we're trying to bring in a better future for ourselves. Aquarius is very much about the future, so Venus and Aquarius is very much about valuing almost like utopia, like valuing the future, valuing your progress, your own progress, valuing again the well-being of a community, the well-being of the collective. So how can our own pain, how can our own almost like magical qualities with Scorpio, it's kind of like these very intuitive qualities, how can they bring us forward? And then how that connects to the North Node is that we can use these two different planets, South Node and the Venus, to then move towards a life that is more based around simplicity, based around self-sufficiency, based around us tending our own gardens, doing our own thing, setting healthy boundaries for ourselves, valuing our resources being our energy, our money, our time, our talents, our skill sets. That's all the North Node in Taurus. So Venus is helping us reevaluate how we can lean more towards that. After Venus squares the nodes, we're then going to have Saturn square the nodes, and then followed by Mars. So when Saturn squares the nodes, it's going to really materialize, I think, a lot of responsibilities that are going to take us from the South Node to the North Node. When Mars comes to square the nodes, it's actually going to square the nodes around the same time that Saturn will square the nodes. So when Mars comes in, Mars is our personal will. It's our motivation. It's our agency. When it comes into conjunction with Saturn, we're going to see possible delays, possible responsibilities that we have to take on that may be out of our league, that we'll have to kind of step up to the plate. The thing that I find the most interesting about this whole series of planets squaring the nodes is that we start with Venus, then we go to Saturn, then we go to Mars. So Venus is helping us basically decide our preferences. What do we like? What do we dislike about our lives? Saturn then brings in the responsibility, then brings in the actual step-by-step plan that we need to follow if we're going to make any change. And then Mars brings in our own motivation, our own willpower, our own agency, and we're basically clumping all of these together to force ourselves to move forward, force ourselves to get out of bad situations, and make the necessary sacrifices and be uncomfortable enough to get to a place of comfort, which is that North Node in Taurus. With Saturn being involved, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that is, it's going to take a long time. It'll take a long time, but hopefully it'll be worth it. Another thing we can see, though, with Saturn is that Saturn does rule authority, so this could be a crackdown on some kind of authority or government. There could be a larger influence of them. More rules, more regulations, more limitations, more restrictions. That can happen too. Finally, we have the Mercury Cazimi. The Mercury Cazimi is when the Sun and the Moon combine, conjunct, and this is going to be happening in Aries, again, towards the end of the week. This kind of emphasizes what I was talking about before with just Mercury and Aries in general, making us more decisive, more action-oriented. Mercury Cazimi can bring a lot of clarity. It can help us make decisions faster, be more certain of our decisions. Yeah, basically that. So those were the weekly events. Now let's get into more of like the daily highlights. Starting with Sunday, March 27th, that is when Mercury's going to enter Aries. That's when you're going to feel more of these things happening for you that we just discussed. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. March 28th on Monday, this is when we're going to see the kind of more exact Venus, Saturn, Juno, and the moon actually will also join that conjunction in Aquarius on Monday. So that's when you can feel those energies that we've talked about. On the 29th, on Tuesday, that is when Venus will square the nodes. On Wednesday, the moon, Jupiter, and Neptune all come into a conjunction in Pisces. I feel like this is kind of where we'll have the break in the week, which is great because it's Wednesday anyway. So that's good. But whenever the moon makes a connection to Pisces energy, to this Neptune energy, to this Jupiter energy, it opens things up, it helps us breathe, it helps us kind of relax. Now, Pisces is also a sign that gets easily overwhelmed. It's an existential dread kind of a sign, so I don't want to be like overly positive. I do feel like Pisces can be a very rejuvenating sign, a replenishing sign, and so you could see that energy happening on Wednesday. This could be a nice day to take a day off or to just like focus on your internal well-being a little bit more. But we could also see it being a really overwhelming day, a really emotionally overwhelming day, where you don't feel a lot of sense of control, and there could be a lot of things happening, and it can just feel a little bit out of your scope to be able to deal with. That could also happen with Pisces energy, so watch out for that as well. Thursday, March 31st, this is when we have the new moon in Aries. The new moon in Aries, this new moon, I feel like it's going to be really interesting because it's actually happening right on top of Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer. I see Chiron as basically representing human frailty, human vulnerability. It's the loser. It's the weak, it's the vulnerable. Chiron rules over our sensitivities, our insecurities, and Chiron rules areas of our charts where we just aren't the winners. We aren't the strongest. We aren't the smartest. We aren't the baddest. We aren't perfect. We don't exude power where Chiron is. And the benefit of Chiron, or what can happen with Chiron, is that we learn to accept human frailty. We learn to accept that we're not going to live forever. We learn to accept weakness, and we learn to accept the imperfections. So with a new moon right on top of Chiron in Aries, it has to do a lot, I think, with our insecurities around our identities with Aries, with it being in Aries, but also more so our insecurities around, like, do we have the right to exist? Do we have the right to take up space? Do we have the right to stand up for ourselves? Like, do we have that right? And there can be kind of a lot of self-doubt you know? And that self-doubt and that insecurity and that vulnerability can lead to aggression, can lead to people lashing out, can lead to people taking out their anger, taking out their fear on other people. With a new moon energy, it's very much about welcoming in fresh influence, welcoming in a new cycle, welcoming in a new part of your life, a new time in your life. I think that the best way to use this energy is to deal with those feelings of inadequacy, deal with those feelings of not, or of missing the mark, dealing with the feelings of coming up short in some way, and trying to learn acceptance for those parts of yourself. I also feel like the way to use this energy is going to be becoming more certain that, becoming more aware of the reasons why you do deserve to take up space, why you do deserve to exist, why you deserve to be the person that you are, and you deserve to have the needs that you have met. Whether you have to meet your own needs or whether you need other people to meet some of those needs, you have the right to ask for that. You have the right to enforce that. Obviously, not to the detriment of other people, but you also don't have to hurt yourself or weaken yourself for the sake of other people's comfort level, right? So that's a lot of what we're learning about anyway with Chiron and Aries. This new moon just highlights that lesson that we're all learning. Okay, the very next day, Friday, April 1st, and actually it carries over into April 2nd, on Saturday, we actually have Mercury and Chiron and the Sun all conjoining in Aries. So during the Mercury Cazimi, it's on top of Chiron, same as the new moon. So everything that I just said pretty much applies. Mercury is just going to, the moon is more emotions and internal and our feelings. The Mercury is more of our thoughts and our mentality. So we might feel a lot during the new moon, and then we might be able to process it further when when Mercury comes into the equation. Also happening on Friday and Saturday, this is when Saturn will square the nodes. So this is when we'll start to see that influence happening towards the end of this week. And then on Sunday, March 3rd, this is when it all happens. This is when Mars conjoins Saturn. They're both squaring the nodes. And then the moon is even combining with Uranus and Taurus. I think that Sunday's going to be a big day. I don't necessarily know if like crazy things are going to happen for everybody across the board, right? But I do think that this is when we're going to start seeing that energy manifest and play out for all of us. This is when our responsibilities are going to get real. This is when it's going to land on us. We're going to have to do something about it. We're going to have to work hard. We're going to have to put things on our shoulders and work with it. We might experience delays. We might experience certain challenges or difficulties that maybe we weren't expecting, but it's definitely kind of a stepping point. We're moving forward in some way. There's something to kind of push off of, really. There's going to be enough friction in the air for us to actually like push and pull away or towards something. So it can actually be really helpful. With the moon combining with Uranus, to me that speaks to us very much actually changing, like actually liberating ourselves from a restrictive, limiting mindset or situation and pressing forward, moving forward, and doing things a different way. Doing things, experimenting with ways that we haven't necessarily done things in the past. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I think that's really all that I wanted to talk about for this week. I hope that I was able to explain certain things. I'm still getting used to speaking instead of just writing on my keyboard, so bear with me, please. But, yeah, thanks for, again, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching this video. Thanks for watching till the end. And, yeah, if you'd like to book a reading with me, if you want to know more about me, if you want to know more about my approach to astrology, then you can go to my website, ladybitternessastrology.com, and I have several readings up there that are listed: transit readings, natal readings. We can talk about anything that you want: career, life, self-development, relationships, family, home, yada yada, all the things. I also offer a 20-minute free video Zoom call. So if you just want to talk a little bit about my approach or talk a little bit about what to expect from my readings, we can set that up and we can do that too. And I just started as an astrologer, an in-person astrologer at the local shop in Claremont, California. It's called Kindred Spirits. So I work there the first and third Saturday of every month, and the second and fourth the first and third Friday and Sunday of every month, and the second and fourth Saturday of every month. So you can check me out there too. Okay, bye.